I always assumed that if I ever died it would be because I did something stupid. But stealing from an alpha bounty hunter? Even I know that's pushing it. The thought flickered through my mind as I slid the thin metal case out of the vault and into my jacket, fingers moving fast, heartbeat annoyingly loud in my ears. I told myself it was adrenaline. Definitely adrenaline, not fear. Never fear. The underground gallery of the shifter market pulsed around me, black stone walls lit by shifting blue sigils, stalls, stacked with glowing artifacts, and the hum of 50 different predators pretending they weren't watching each other. The place always smelled like power, sharp, metallic, a little sweet. And dangerous. Perfect for a guy like me. A guy who survived by rushing straight into danger, grabbing something expensive, and praying his feet were faster than his past. I nudged the vault door shut with my wrist. No alarm. No roar. No teeth snapping at my throat. Nice. Changing my scent had bought me a few seconds, just enough to trick the vault's olfactory lock. My talent wasn't much, but it was enough to make machines think I was someone else entirely. One more thing the market owners would put on my why we want him dead list. I stepped into the crowded lane, blending into the mass of shifters browsing code capsules and enchanted collars. No one looked twice. Good. All I had to do now was... A chill ran down my spine. Not a draft. Not a temperature drop. Something else. Someone was watching me. I told myself not to look. Naturally I looked anyway. And there he was. Tall. Broad-shouldered. Calm in a way that made the air around him feel colder. His hair was dark, his eyes sharper than any blade on the market. And, when those eyes locked onto me, it felt like being pinned to a board. Lyon. The network's most reliable retrieval specialist. A man who could track a lie by scent alone. An alpha who'd never lost a target. My brain gave me many reasonable suggestions. Drop the contract, faint, run screaming, go limp like a possum. I ignored all of them. Instead, I grinned. Big, bright, catastrophically stupid. His expression didn't change. But I swear the air tightened, like even the molecules were nervous about disappointing him. I lifted a hand. And winked. For half a second, just one, his eyes widened. Then the tension snapped. Move, I muttered to myself, already pushing through the crowd. Behind me someone spoke, low, steady and cold enough to freeze bone. Felix. Oh great. He knew my name. Nothing terrifying about that, nope. The market blurred as I bolted, dodging an annoyed beta sliding under. A hanging chain curtain, leaping over a crate of glowing talismans. I heard footsteps behind me, slow at first, then faster. Lyon didn't rush, he hunted. I burst up the maintenance staircase, 2 steps at a time, my legs burning, chest tight. Up, 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 until the ceiling opened into night air and the vast upper rooftop of the market. Wind slapped my face. Good. That meant space. And space meant options. I crouched on the ledge, finally catching my breath. The city above the market glimmered with neon veins. Behind me, Lyon hadn't followed. He wouldn't risk revealing himself up here. Smart. Annoying. I liked it less when people were smart. I tugged the stolen case from my jacket and flipped it open. The contract inside shimmered with coded seals, lines of shifting glyphs reflecting in my eyes. Expensive. Powerful. Worth enough to buy my freedom 10 times over, if I ever got the chance to use it. As I stared at the glowing symbols, something throbbed inside my chest, warm, sharp, pulsing in sync with the glyphs. Weird. Uncomfortable. Like the contract recognized me. Or worse. Like something in me recognized it. I snapped the case shut and leaned back against the rooftop tiles, letting the night swallow the last of my panic. Okay, I whispered to myself. He saw me. He'll come after me. Probably kill me, possibly slowly. But, at least I made an impression. Below, far beneath the rooftop, I imagined Lyon still standing in that gallery. Jaw clenched, eyes narrowed, realizing exactly what I'd done. I grinned to the sky. And ran. The office beneath the market smelled like concrete dust, ozone, and stress. Mostly mine. Rows of surveillance screens lined the walls, each flickering with footage. From the shifter market, heat maps, scent trackers, biometric outlines. But my eyes kept returning to one screen. The one where a certain slippery omega had winked at me before vanishing like smoke. A curl of bitterness burned in my nose, faint but unmistakable. Lies always smelled like that. Bitter smoke, like a candle snuffed out too early. Felix had reeked of it. Not cowardice, not fear. Just lies, layered and sharp, wrapped around him like a second skin. Most shifters lie with their faces. He lied with his entire existence. I rolled back the footage again. And again. Slow motion. Frame by frame. There he was, approaching the vault area with a scent pattern that matched an authorized technician. Perfect mimicry. His steps even matched the man's rhythm. Not a beginner, I muttered. The system overlaid a comparison. Two silhouettes, Felix's and the technician's, moving nearly identically. That level of control wasn't instinct. It was practice. Years of it. He'd done this before. Probably dozens of times. My jaw tightened. I wasn't angry at him. Not exactly. I was angry at the realization that I'd underestimated him. An omega I had. Mentally categorized as small problem, minor theft, easy retrieval. And yet here I was, staring at the one person who had managed to slip through my hands. The last time I lost someone, my chest tightened. No. I shut that thought down instantly. I wasn't going back to that night. I couldn't. Someone knocked on the open doorway. My colleague Dara leaned against the metal frame. "You're still on the Felix case? Thought you'd be done by now." I didn't look at her. "He's smarter than he looks." "That's not hard," she snorted. "The screens told a different story." "No," I said quietly. "It is." Dara's smirk faded. "You missed him, didn't you?" Everyone knew my record. I didn't miss targets. Not ever. Except once. And now twice. I exhaled slowly. The scent of bitter smoke still lingering behind my eyes, an echo of the lie Felix projected to the entire world. "I won't miss again," I said. Dara opened her mouth to joke, then paused, reading my expression. "You're serious?" "Very," she whistled softly and stepped back. "Good luck then. You'll need it. That kid's like a greased shadow, maybe. But shadows belong to the night. And I hunted best in the dark." When she left, I turned back to the footage. There he was, dodging bodies, slipping between crowds, shoulders relaxed, eyes sharp. A professional escape artist, wrapped in baby-faced arrogance and terrible survival instincts. He shouldn't interest me. But he did. More than he should. I replayed the moment he looked back at me. The grin. The wink. The challenge. My pulse ticked once, slow and dangerous. "He's mine," I said to the empty room, voice quiet but final. "And I will find him." The screens flickered in silent agreement, casting cold light across the metal walls. Time to hunt. If there's one thing I'm good at, it's running. If there's a second thing I'm good at, it's talking to myself while I run. Which is exactly what I was doing while digging through a stack of rusted metal drawers inside an abandoned records vault deep beneath the city. "Okay, Felix," I muttered, kicking a dusty crate aside. "You need a decoy. Something smart. Something elegant. Something that says, 'Sorry you wasted your time, big guy, but better luck next century.'" The vault smelled like old paper, failed air filters and despair. Perfect ambiance for a criminal mastermind such as myself. The neon overhead flickered like it was trying to have a seizure, casting sickly green light over rows of forgotten files. I tugged a thin strip of treated fabric from my pocket, soaked in fake scent. Designed to mimic my trail for exactly 20 minutes before dissolving. "Beautiful," I told the fabric, patting it with admiration before tucking it under the crate. "Please lead him very far away from me. Preferably to the nearest trash compactor." I stood, brushing dust off my jacket, and froze. Footsteps. Slow. Steady. Too heavy to be a beta. The air shifted as if something dangerous had entered the room. "Oh, perfect," I whispered. "Fantastic. Amazing. 10 out of 10, universe. Loving the commitment to comedy." I backed quietly toward the shelves. There were shadows everywhere, helpful for disappearing, terrible for hiding from someone who hunted shadows for a living. The footsteps stopped just behind the nearest row of metal shelves. I held my breath. Then his voice cut through the silence. "Felix." My soul tried to eject itself from my body. I spun to bolt, and slammed straight into a solid chest. My hands hit muscle, my brain hit panic. Lyon towered over me, eyes sharp even in the flickering light. Up close, he smelled like cold steel and rain-soaked pine. Terrible combination for my survival. His fingers closed around my wrist before I could slip away. "You laid a scent decoy," he said quietly. "That's a bold accusation," I squeaked. His grip tightened, not painfully, just decisively. anchoring me in place. Our faces were too close. Far too close. His eyes dragged across my features like he was analyzing every micro-expression. For a moment, neither of us moved. Something in the air coiled tight, like an elastic band pulled past its limit. Then I felt it, the familiar spark under my skin, a rush of warmth shooting down my arms into my veins. Not now. Not now. Lyon's eyes narrowed. Your pulse just spiked. No kidding, I snapped. You're crushing my wrist. But that wasn't it. My veins glowed faintly, silver threading beneath the skin, flickering to life like someone had flipped a switch inside me. Lyon saw it. His brows pulled together. What? Before he finished, the energy surged. My muscles kicked into overdrive, body propelled by instinct rather than thought. I twisted, slipped through his grip like water, and shot backward between two shelves. Lyon lunged. But I was already gone, darting down the corridor in a burst of speed no Omega should have. The world blurred around me, neon lights smearing into streaks. My heart hammered, not just from fear. From something waking up inside me. Behind me, Lyon stopped at the end of the aisle. I heard him say it, low, stunned. Impossible. I didn't wait to hear more. I didn't want to know how close he'd been to catching me, or how close I'd been to. Whatever that moment had almost turned into, I just ran. Again. Underground safe houses always looked the same. A little damp, a little crooked, and suspiciously decorated with items someone definitely stole from a dumpster. This one had flickering violet lamps, mismatched rugs, and a heavy herbal scent that tried very hard to be calming but mostly reminded me of old tea drowned in disappointment. But it was safe. And for tonight, safe was luxury. I collapsed onto a creaky couch and winced. I'd earned a few scrapes outrunning Lyon, including a spectacular slide across concrete that took half the skin off my elbow. Of course, that's when someone cleared their throat. You're bleeding on my furniture. I looked up. A tall beta with tired eyes and more scars than sense leaned against the doorframe. His name was Vale, former contract Omega turned don't ask me anything drifter. He'd survived things most shifters wouldn't whisper about. Sorry, I said, swiping at the blood. Your couch started it. He didn't smile. Vale rarely did. You running from someone? He asked. If I say no, will you pretend to believe me? No. Then yes. Vale sighed and sat across from me, elbows on his knees. Let me guess. You stole something you shouldn't have. Wow. Incredible deduction. Felix. He fixed me with a look that could have melted steel. Who? I hesitated. His expression darkened. Fine, I muttered. Lyon. His whole body went still. Felix. His voice dropped. You don't steal from him. I did. He doesn't stop. I noticed. Vale rubbed his face like he was in physical pain. You're going to die. Thanks for the pep talk. Before he could lecture me further, the door swung open, and Lyra stepped in, an alpha medic who patched up anyone who could pay in favors. Her white coat used to be medical grade. Now it was mostly gray. You're leaking, she said, pointing at my elbow. Wow, you and Vale rehearsed that line? She didn't even blink before grabbing my arm. Her fingers pressed against the scrape, and I hissed. Hold still. I am holding still, ow, Lyra, I swear. Then she froze. Felix. Your blood. What about it? I asked. She lifted my arm closer to the lamplight. A faint shimmer pulsed beneath the skin, thin silver threads running along my veins. I've seen this once, she whispered. A long time ago. Omega carriers, those with embedded code sequences. Key blood. I stared. Key what now? Vale swore under his breath. Felix, what did you steal? Before I could answer, every lamp flickered at once. Someone was approaching. My stomach dropped. No. Not again. Not here. Footsteps echoed down the hall, slow, steady, familiar. Lyra shoved me behind the curtain dividing the room. Vale reached for a weapon he'd buried in a couch cushion. Too late. Lyon stepped into the dim room like he owned it. His gaze swept the place, then locked onto the curtain I was behind. Great. Perfect. I might as well have worn a neon sign that said, Hi Lyon. He spoke, voice low and annoyingly calm. You really thought you could hide from me here? I stepped out because, honestly, running while trapped behind a curtain rarely works. Nice to see you too, I said. Love the dramatic entrance. Very menacing. His eyes sharpened. You left me quite a chase. Happy to provide cardio. We stood a few feet apart, tension thick enough to chew. His scent hit me. Cold pine, sharp steel, and every survival instinct I had screamed at me to run. He took one step closer. You're coming with? Nope. I darted sideways, launched myself through the nearest window, rolled. Twice. And bolted down the alley before he even reached the sill. Behind me I heard him mutter. Unbelievable. Yeah, that made two of us. The white bone wasn't white. Or clean. Or particularly bone-like. It was an underground bar carved into the remains of an abandoned transit tunnel, lit with guttering lamps and a haze of smoke that made everyone inside look slightly ghostly. Fitting, considering how many bounties were negotiated here. And how many people left the place with broken noses. Tonight though, the bar hummed with something sharper. Whispers, shifting scents, tension. I pushed through the door, and every conversation paused for half a heartbeat. A few hunters glanced toward me, then quickly looked away. Smart of them. I headed straight for the main board, the giant metal display where new contracts appeared. And there it was. Felix's face, projected in crisp blue light. Wanted, recovery contract. Subject, Felix, Omega. Reward, 500,000 CR. Condition, alive. Minimal damage preferred. Minimal damage preferred. Disgusting. I stared at the number. 500,000 credits. For him. For my target. One of the hunters whistled behind me. Damn. That's a record for an Omega. Kid must have pissed off someone important. He didn't piss off someone. He pissed off everyone. I inhaled slowly. And there it was again. That faint burn of bitter smoke. Lies clung to the air like fog. But none of them came from Felix this time. They came from the hunters circling the board like vultures. People I'd worked with before. People who didn't care about rules or safety, or anything, except the payout. I turned away from the board, and found myself face to face with Sorn, a rat. Thin informant who made a living selling half-truths to overconfident idiots. Lyon, he said, smiling with far too many teeth. You looking to buy intel on the Omega? I've got some fresh. I grabbed him by the collar, and slammed him against the nearest post. The entire bar went silent. Selling his location? I asked quietly. Sorn's smile twitched. Business is business. My fist hit the post next to his head, denting the metal. Try again. Look, man. There's a big reward. Everyone's going after him. He's not your contract. Sorn swallowed, his scent souring with fear. Then what do you want from me? Who have you told? And no one, I swear, I just found out myself. Lie. Bitter smoke curled around his words, stinging my senses. I didn't hit him. I didn't need to. I simply tightened my grip until his feet lifted an inch off the ground. I asked you a question. He choked. 3 hunters. Maybe 4. That's all I know. I let him drop. He scrambled away on shaky legs, bumping into a table, and earning curses from the drinkers there. The room resumed its noise, though every pair of eyes avoided mine. Good. I walked back toward the exit, ignoring the curious glances, ignoring the hunters whispering plans they thought I couldn't hear. They'd go after Felix. They'd underestimate him. They'd get close. And I would be there first. Not because of the contract. Not because 500,000 credits was insulting. But because the idea of someone else catching him, someone who wouldn't, I'd hesitate to break him, twisted something deep inside my chest. I shoved open the metal door and stepped into the tunnel, the heavy air swallowing me whole. He's mine, I muttered to the darkness. And I'm done being one step behind. Time to move. There are many dignified ways to get caught. I chose none of them. The chase started well enough. I darted through the open-air vents of the lower market, sprinted past a stack of crates, shoved a beta courier into a pile of fruit, not sorry, and dropped into an underground maintenance tunnel lit by soft violet strips. The tiles glistened with condensation, which I noticed, and ignored, and paid for immediately. Behind me, Leon's footsteps echoed, steady, confident, maddeningly unhurried, like he knew the ending and was simply allowing me to entertain myself with denial. My breath hitched, the air tasted of metal and panic. I could almost hear his smirk. No way you're catching me today, I whispered to myself. The universe responded by making me slip at full speed. 1 second I was a graceful escape artist, master of shadows, legend of my own imagination. And the next I was horizontal, sliding across the tile like a tragic figure skater with no talent or dignity. I skidded several meters, limbs flailing, and came to a stop face down. Very smooth I groaned into the floor. Then I felt it. A presence. A shadow dropping over mine. I rolled onto my back. Lyon stood above me, looking entirely too composed for someone who just watched an Omega wipe out spectacularly. His expression was unreadable, somewhere between irritation and amusement. Before I could scramble away, his hand shot out and grabbed my arm. Effortlessly. He hauled me up in one fluid motion, pulling me directly against him. Chest to chest, heat to heat. His scent hit me instantly. Cool pine, steel, something dangerously grounding. My breath stuttered. His didn't. "Caught you," he said, voice low. "Congratulations," I snapped, trying to twist free. "Would you like a prize? A ribbon? A fruit basket?" His grip tightened, not painful, just firm. Too firm. Too close. "Stop squirming," he said. "Let me go." No. I did the only logical thing. I leaned in and tried to bite his shoulder. Lyon actually laughed. A real warm laugh that vibrated through his chest and straight into mine. "You're unbelievable," he murmured. I tried again. Less bite, more warning nip. His hand slid to my waist, steadying me as if I were the one losing balance. Which? Rude, but fair. "I'm serious," I hissed. "So am I." He reached into his jacket with his free hand. I tensed. "If that's a shock collar, I swear." "It isn't." He pulled out something small and soft. A fabric restraint, padded and flexible. Not for pain. Just to keep me from running. He caught my wrist gently, threading the restraint around it and securing it with a click. The material settled warm against my skin. I blinked. "Seriously? This is barely more than a bracelet." "It's enough," he said. His fingers brushed my palm before withdrawing. My pulse jumped traitorously. I hated that he noticed. I hated that he smirked when he did. He tugged lightly on the restraint. "Walk. You don't get to command me." He leaned in, voice brushing my ear. "Then think of it as a suggestion." My brain short-circuited for a full 3 seconds. I yanked away from him, well, tried to. His grip stayed steady, guiding rather than forcing. And that was the problem. I'd expected cruelty. I'd expected anger. I wasn't prepared for calm, or patience, or the quiet way he said, "You're not hurt, are you?" like it mattered. "No," I muttered. "Just my pride." "That was the worst part to injure," he agreed. "Shut up." He didn't. But for the first time, I wasn't terrified he would. And that was almost worse. If someone had asked me what I expected after being caught by Lyon, I would have said chains, a dungeon, maybe a dramatic monologue about consequences. I did not expect this. A quiet room. Soft lighting that didn't scream interrogation. Minimalist furniture, clean lines, neutral colors, annoyingly serene. A single bed, a small table, even a folded blanket. It felt less like a prison cell and more like a guest room for someone Lyon wasn't sure he wanted to keep or let leave. Which made me very uncomfortable. "I hate it here," I announced the moment he shut the door behind us. "You've been here for 20 seconds, he replied. "And they've been terrible." He didn't answer, already walking toward the small kitchenette like he had better things to think about than my commentary. I tugged at the soft restraint on my wrist. It didn't hurt, but it held, firm, secure, designed to remind me I was very much not free. I scowled. "Do you usually kidnap people and then give them mood lighting?" He didn't turn around. "You're not kidnapped." "Oh. Am I free to go?" "No. Sounds like kidnapping to me." He sighed in a way that suggested he regretted every life choice that led him to me. "Good." I wandered the room, poking everything I could reach. A lamp. A bookshelf. A drawer containing nothing except neatly folded shirts that definitely weren't mine. No weapons. No locks inside the room. No cameras that I could see. Suspicious. Eventually, I found it. The vent. Small, high up, but doable. A challenge. And after the humiliation in the tunnel, I needed a win. I climbed onto the table, then the shelf, stretched up. "Felix," Lyon said without looking. "Don't." I smirked. "You can't tell me what to." My fingers slipped on the vent cover. I lost balance. I crashed backward off the shelf and landed squarely on Lyon's back. He caught me with a grunt, hands automatically gripping my thighs to keep me from sliding straight to the floor. We froze. So did the air. I was draped over him like an inconvenient scarf, warm, breathless, very aware of every solid line of muscle under me. "Get off," he said quietly. "I'm trying," I wheezed, scrambling. "Stop being so wide." His shoulders shook once, very slightly. Was he laughing? He crouched, letting me slide off, and once my feet hit the floor, he turned to face me. His hands rested briefly on my arms to steady me. The touch was gentle, not restraining, not threatening, just steady. "Are you hurt?" he asked. I blinked. "No." "Why?" "You fell." A pause. "On me." "You cushioned the landing," I muttered. His mouth twitched, like he almost smiled but caught himself at the last second. We both stood there, too close, the silence stretching. Something warm pressed against my chest, uncomfortable in a way I couldn't name. Then he spoke, softly, unexpectedly. "I don't want to hurt you, Felix." The words hit harder than any grip he'd used on me. My brain reacted immediately. Lie. Must be lie. But my nose picked up nothing. No bitter smoke. No sting. He was telling the truth. I stepped back, confused and annoyed at how my heartbeat stuttered. "Why would I believe that?" I whispered. "You don't have to," he said. "Just stay." A simple request. Too simple. Dangerous. I didn't trust him. But for the first time, I didn't want to run. And that terrified me more than any restraint ever could. The hidden lab beneath headquarters was quieter than any place had a right to be. Sterile white walls, monitors humming with soft blue light, machines breathing in steady mechanical rhythm, like something alive. Normally, I liked the stillness here. Today, it felt like the air was holding its breath. I stood beside one of the diagnostic consoles, arms folded, watching the screen cycle through the analysis results. A small vial rested in the machine. Felix's blood sample, taken after he'd scraped his arm in the tunnels. Routine procedure. That was what I told myself. Except nothing about Felix had been routine from the moment he winked at me. The screen beeped, soft, bright, final. Scan complete. Lines of data spilled across the monitors, coded symbols flowing like water, highlighted regions illuminating in red. At first I didn't understand what I was looking at. Then, the labels loaded. Genetic anomaly. Key sequence detected. Omega carrier, access strand present. Classification, code blood. Associated system, blacklist central archive. Warning, termination of carrier results in irreversible data loss. My blood went cold. Felix wasn't just some thief playing at rebellion. He was a key, a living encryption strand. One that could unlock or destroy the entire blacklist database. Every transaction. Every buyer. Every contract. If the market found out. If the wrong people learned what he was. They wouldn't try to capture him. They'd try to dissect him. Delete him. Somewhere behind me, a soft voice said, "You're very still. That's never a good sign." Lyra stepped into the room, her boots barely making sound on the smooth floor. She tied her white, formerly white, coat tighter around herself, and glanced between me and the screen. "You ran the sample," she said, not asking. "And?" I didn't answer. She frowned, stepping closer. The faint herbal scent always clinging to her sharpened with tension. Her eyes tracked the data slowly, too slowly, and then widened. "Oh," she whispered. "Lyon." I closed the window before she could read further. My hand moved on instinct, shutting everything down, wiping temporary caches, encrypting the rest under my personal key. "You're hiding this," she said. "Yes. You shouldn't." "I know." She waited a beat. Then, "But you still are." I didn't respond. Lyra studied me for a long moment. Longer than I liked. Finally she said, voice low, "This isn't just professional concern, is it?" I stiffened. "Careful. You're looking at him differently." "I'm not." She raised an eyebrow. "When you brought him in, you scanned him for injuries before anything else. And now you're protecting his data. Because if the board sees this, they'll kill him." "And you don't want that." "No." The word left before I could stop it. Lyra exhaled softly. "Lyon. He's dangerous. For you. You know that, right?" I thought of him falling on me from the vent. Of his pulse racing when I touched his wrist. Of the way his eyes had flashed when he tried to hide fear with sarcasm. "Dangerous?" "Yes." But not in the way the board assumed. "I'll handle it," I said. "You always say that," she murmured. "But this time, you care." I glared at her. "I don't." "You do." Her tone was maddeningly gentle. I turned away from her, staring at the screens I'd wiped clean. At the empty space where Felix's genetic sequence had glowed like a warning flare. A code key. A target. A threat to every corrupt buyer on the market. And somehow, impossibly, someone who made me want to protect him before I even knew why. Lyra touched my arm briefly. "What are you going to do?" I didn't hesitate. "Keep him hidden," I said. "No matter what." The machines hummed quietly, like they were agreeing with me. And for the first time since I took this job, the mission wasn't about duty. It was about him. If there was one thing I absolutely did not want added to my resume, it was runs through murder tunnels with an alpha carrying him like a fancy handbag. And yet, here we were. The ambush hit fast. One moment, Lyon was guiding me through a back corridor under headquarters. The next, 3 hunters dropped from an overhead ledge, claws extended, scents sharp with adrenaline and greed. "For the price on your head," one hissed. "This'll be quick." "Rude," I muttered. "I'm worth at least an hour of effort." Lyon didn't give them the chance. He moved before I could blink, shoving me behind him, intercepting the first hunter, with a brutal, efficient strike that sent the guy smashing into the tunnel wall. The second lunged, but Lyon caught him mid-air and used him to bowl over the third. 3 down. 10 seconds. Typical. "What did you do?" I hissed. "Why are all of them coming after me now?" Lyon didn't answer. His eyes flicked over me in a quick assessment, checking for injuries, checking if I could still run. Or if I'd run without him. His jaw tightened. "We need to move." "I can move just fine on my—" "Hey!" He scooped me up like it was the most efficient option, which it wasn't. Unless efficiency meant destroy Felix's remaining dignity. "Put me down." "You're too light," he said, turning down a side tunnel at a speed no alpha his size should have. "I bet I could carry you for hours." "That is not the flex you think it is." "Disagree." I thumped a fist against his shoulder. "This is humiliating. Would you prefer death?" "I'd prefer being carried less smugly." His mouth twitched, almost amused. Almost. The tunnel opened into an access shaft leading upward. Lyon climbed the metal ladder one-handed, because of course he did, still holding me against his chest. "Stop looking so calm," I snapped. "We're being hunted. And I'm handling it." "Stop sounding calm too." He didn't. We burst onto a rooftop, the city stretching in a maze of dark alleys and neon vents. For once, the night air smelled like possibility instead of danger. But the hunters weren't far. Echoes of footsteps rose from below. Lyon set me down, carefully, annoyingly carefully. "We split," he said. "I draw them off. You take the north vents." I stared at him. "We're splitting up? Seriously, after all that?" "You'll be safer." "No." I grabbed his wrist before my brain caught up. His eyes widened slightly. So did mine. The contact sent a strange warmth climbing up my arm. Not the spark from my weird blood thing. Something else. Something softer. I let go immediately. "Fine," I said, scowling at the sky so I didn't have to look at him. "We go together." Lyon's voice was quiet. "Together, then." The hunters burst from the stairwell. We moved in sync before deciding to. I ducked under a swipe. Lyon grabbed the attacker's arm. I tripped another. Lyon sent him flying off the ledge onto a lower roof, sadly alive. We covered each other's blind spots without thinking. It was terrifying how easily we worked as one. When the last hunter went down, I was breathing hard, adrenaline buzzing through my veins. Lyon stepped beside me, chest rising steadily, gaze scanning the skyline for more threats. Only then did I realize I was staring at him. Too long. Too softly. No, no, no. Absolutely not. I jerked my gaze away, furious with myself. I did not look at alphas like that. Especially not ones chasing me. "Don't read into this," I muttered. "Into what?" Lyon asked. "Exactly." He almost smiled. We slipped into the next tunnel, side by side. And for the first time, running didn't feel like running away. The rain came down in cold sheets, needling across the cracked rooftop, and turning every broken tile into a slick, treacherous trap. We'd taken refuge in the shadow of an old ventilation tower, half rusted barely upright, but enough to hide us from sight while the storm swallowed the city. Felix sat beside me, knees drawn up, arms wrapped around them. The wet air plastered his hair to his forehead, and the restraint around his wrist glinted faintly with every flash of lightning. He pretended not to shiver. He pretended not to look at me when he thought I wasn't watching. It was painfully obvious. "You should sleep," I said. He snorted. "Right. So I can wake up in a lab somewhere?" "I told you," I said quietly. "I'm not giving you to them." He turned his head sharply, eyes narrowing. The rain blurred the edges of his expression, but not the distrust there. "I've heard that line before." I forced myself to hold his gaze. "Not from me." He looked away first. Silence stretched between us, filled only by the rain and the distant hum of generators from the market district. Felix's breathing was unsteady, too uneven for cold alone. "Why are you doing this?" he asked at last. Any other hunter would have turned me in the moment they knew what I was. 500,000 credits just for delivery, double that for silence. Because I couldn't stomach the image of him strapped to a lab table. Because the idea of someone else's hands on him, clinical, cruel, unfeeling, made something violent twist in my chest. Because I'd already decided he was mine. But I didn't say that. "I have my reasons," I answered. "Terrific." He rolled his eyes. "So does everyone who ruins my life." Lightning cracked above us, illuminating the sharp lines of his face. There was hurt beneath his sarcasm, deep-rooted, old, familiar. "Felix," I said quietly. "What happened to you, before all this?" He stiffened. "Don't." "Why? You ask me questions. That's different." "How?" "Because mine have answers," he snapped. "Yours are traps." His voice cracked at the last word. "Barely. But I heard it." "Traps," I repeated. "Like trust?" "Exactly," he whispered. I wanted to reach for him. I didn't. I'd already overstepped too much. Before I could speak again, the air shifted. A scent, oily, metallic, dangerous, cut through the rain. Killers. Professional ones. "Get down," I ordered. Felix didn't argue this time. We pressed deeper into the shadow just as 3 dark silhouettes appeared. At the opposite end of the rooftop, weapons glinting in the stormlight. Felix's breath hitched. "They found us." "How did they find us?" "Later," I said, stepping in front of him. "Stay behind me." He grabbed my arm. "Lyon." Too late. The first shot rang out, silent, compressed air, a crossbow bolt meant to pierce bone. I shoved Felix down and turned. Pain sliced through my shoulder. Felix screamed my name. The world narrowed to rain, metal and his hands, shaking, as they pressed against the wound. "Don't move," he said, voice high with panic. You're bleeding, stop, just stop." He wasn't looking at the bolt. He was looking at me, like I mattered, like losing me would destroy something inside him. The fear in his eyes was raw, unguarded, devastating. I caught his wrist with my uninjured hand. "Felix. I'm fine." "You're not fine," he snapped, blinking hard. "You idiot. Why would you shield me?" Because the choice had already been made. Because when the bolt flew, my body moved before my mind did. Because I would always take the hit before letting anything touch him. But all I said was, it wasn't a choice. His breath faltered. Behind us the killers moved again, but this time, I was ready. Rage steadied my limbs, instinct sharpened my vision. Felix stayed at my back. I stayed in front of him. We fought like we'd been doing it for years. Together, synchronized, inevitable. When the last attacker hit the ground, rain washing blood from the tiles, Felix grabbed my face between his shaking hands. "Don't ever do that again," he whispered. I held his gaze. "I can't promise that." Something broke in his expression. Something opened. He dropped his forehead against mine, breath trembling. And in that moment, between thunder and fear, I made my decision. Not the contract. Not the mission. Him. I chose him. I'd imagined the Blacklist archive 1,000 different ways. A vault. A server farm. A ritual chamber. Something ominous and humming and terrible. I hadn't imagined this. The room was massive, an underground cathedral of technology, lit by towering white-blue columns pulsing like artificial hearts. Cables wove across the floor in tangled veins. The air hummed with electric pressure, the kind that prickled skin and made hair rise. Lyon stood beside me, shoulder still bandaged from the rooftop fight, though he pretended it didn't hurt. His hand hovered close, not touching, but near enough that I could feel the heat of him. "You're sure?" he asked quietly. "No," I answered honestly, "but we're out of time." Footsteps echoed faintly in the tunnels behind us. Hunters, killers, buyers, everyone converging on the one asset they couldn't afford to let walk away. I inhaled deeply. The air tasted sharp, metallic, wrong. "So, how does this work?" I asked. "Do I just bleed, or shake hands with a computer? Bite something? Ritual dance?" "Felix, what?" Humor helps me not scream. He didn't smile, but his eyes softened. "Your blood isn't a key," he said. "It's a circuit. It completes the system," which sounds like a bad idea. It is fantastic. I stepped toward the central column, the brightest one, its surface rippling with symbols that shifted whenever I blinked. My veins pulsed in response, glowing faintly beneath my skin. The closer I got, the stronger the buzzing in my bones became. My heart thudded irregularly. Light flickered at the edge of my vision. My breath came fast. Felix, Lyon was suddenly right behind me. "You don't have to do this." I looked over my shoulder. "Yes, I do." His jaw clenched, but he nodded. I lifted my hand and pressed my palm to the column. The world exploded. A burst of white-hot light shot through my arm, ripping up into my chest and spine. My knees buckled instantly. Pain stabbed like thousands of needles under my skin, threading through my blood, dragging something out of me and into the machine. My vision went white, then blue, then nothing. I heard myself choke, but I couldn't hear my own breath. Arms wrapped around me. Lyon, holding me up, supporting my weight, grounding me when gravity felt optional. "Stay with me," he said in my ear. "Felix, stay." I wanted to answer, some joke, something sharp, but my mouth wouldn't cooperate. The light crawled through my veins faster, burning, rewriting, unmaking. Symbols surged along the column, racing upward. The columns around us began to spark and flicker. It was working. It was killing me, but it was working. Then, a crack, a deafening one. The nearest column ruptured at the top, showering us with fragments of glowing crystal. The hum of machines turned into a high-pitched scream. "System destabilizing," a distorted voice boomed overhead. Lyon pulled me away from the column, arms tight, dragging me backward across the shaking floor. "We have to go," he said. "I can't feel my legs." "I've got you." He hoisted me up, cradling me against his chest as the entire archive began to tear itself apart. Light flared, columns buckled, screens shattered. Then the ceiling gave way. We sprinted. Well, he sprinted, I clung like a dying cat, through the nearest maintenance tunnel. Just as the archive detonated behind us, sending a blast of heat and debris down the corridor. We stumbled, fell, rolled through mud and dust and concrete fragments. The world shook. My lungs screamed. But we were alive. Lyon braced himself over me, shielding me as the shockwave passed. When the noise finally died, he looked down, breath ragged. "You're alive," he whispered. "You sound surprised." He let out a broken laugh, forehead resting against mine. "Let's get you out of here." He lifted me again, and this time, I didn't fight it. Because for the first time, running wasn't running from him. It was running with him. I woke to warmth. Soft, gentle warmth. Not the biting heat of explosions or the cold sting of rain. Sunlight spilled through half-closed blinds, casting long stripes across the room. Someone had placed a blanket over me, tucked carefully, deliberately. Too deliberately. I blinked, groaning as every muscle protested. My head throbbed, my veins felt like cooling wires, but I was alive. And in a bed. A real bed. Clean sheets. Quiet room. Soft morning light. Something shifted at my neck. A light weight. I reached up, fingers brushing smooth material. A collar. Not tight. Not painful. Just there. Resting gently at the base of my throat. A protective one. I could feel the faint hum of shielding tech. Designed to block outside trackers, foreign alpha commands, scent lock triggers. It wasn't a shackle. It was a shield. Footsteps rustled nearby. I turned my head. Lyon sat in a chair beside the bed, elbows on his knees, watching me with an expression I'd never seen on him before. Something tired. Something relieved. Something that made my chest feel uncomfortably warm. "You're awake," he said softly. I swallowed, voice rasping. Unfortunately, a small smile tugged at his mouth. How do you feel? Like someone plugged me into a nuclear reactor and then beat me with it. So, normal for you. Ha! Hilarious. He didn't rise to the bait. He just looked at me. Steady, searching, warm in a way that made it impossible to breathe normally. I shifted under the blanket, fingers brushing the collar again. So, I said, my throat tight, you put this on me while I was unconscious? Yes. Super romantic. It's a protection collar, he said. Not a restraint. You were vulnerable. Anyone who was there last night would still be tracking your signature. This hides it, shields you. I stared at him. So, you're saying I'm safe? I'm saying you're not alone. I didn't know what to do with that. Silence stretched, crawling across the room with the slow warmth of sunlight. Finally I whispered, you caught me. What now? He inhaled, eyes softening in a way that felt dangerously close to affection. Now, he said quietly, you're mine. My heart jumped. I blamed the lingering electrocution. He continued, voice slow, deliberate. But that doesn't mean I want to break you. His gaze held mine with an intensity I'd only ever seen when he was hunting. I want you to stay. Not because of the contract, not because of the code in your blood, because you? My stomach twisted. My face heated. Something unfamiliar and unwelcome fluttered under my ribs. I turned away sharply. I hate you. I know, he said, and I heard the smile in his voice. I really hate you. Of course, and if you think this means, it doesn't mean anything you don't want it to, he said gently. That ruined me more than anything. I stared at the ceiling, at the soft morning light, at the peaceful room that shouldn't have felt safe, shouldn't have felt calm, but did. He waited, not pushing, not demanding, just there. And for the first time since I was old enough to understand what being a contract Omega meant, I didn't feel like prey. I felt human. I shoved that thought away. Lyon rose slowly, as if afraid to startle me. I'll get you something to drink. Wait. He stopped. I didn't look at him. I can stay. For now. Silence. Then a breath, relieved, warm, almost shaky. When he spoke, his voice was soft enough to be a whisper. For now is enough. I didn't trust him. I didn't trust myself. But I didn't run. And somehow, that was the beginning of everything.